Hello, everyone. My name is Mike Pennell, as Trevor just mentioned. Welcome to Resco's latest webinar, The Advantages of Ceramic Anchors. First, I'd like to thank Joe Hilson and Chris Macy, co-workers of mine who helped put some of this together and provided some of the information. Okay, with that, we'll get started. So, what are the advantages of using ceramic anchors? Well, they have a higher temperature limit than metal wire anchors. There is more surface area contact, resulting in more load-bearing capacity. Finally, the metal hangers operate at lower temperatures than wire anchors that are embedded. Where are ceramic anchors used? They're used in monolithic linings where the hot face temperature typically exceeds 2000 degrees Fahrenheit or 1093 Celsius. Lining thicknesses can be as short as 6 inches or 152 millimeters and up. They can be used in walls, arches, noses, and most oftenly in roofs. When to use ceramic anchors? For monolithic linings that are installed via casting, dry gunning, shotcreting, or ramming plastic. They're used for high temperatures, as I mentioned earlier, and for lining thicknesses that we consider to be very thick, which are 12 inches or 304 millimeters thicker. I mentioned the metal anchors, and here are the suggested temperature limits of wire anchors and why we recommend using ceramic anchors at temperatures of 2000 degrees Fahrenheit and higher. So you can see 304 stainless has a suggested temperature limit of 1800 degrees, 310 is 2000 degrees Fahrenheit, and Inconel 601 of 2200 degrees Fahrenheit. So if you're going to be reaching temperatures in your lining that hot, you should start considering ceramic anchors. This is the typical KR ceramic anchor that Resco supplies. You'll notice the designations there in the center. They're all referred to as KR. So we have a KR 638, which translates to 6 3/8 inches long, or about 162 millimeters. And that length is measured from the top of the anchor to the bottom of the anchor. And notice that the anchor is consistent all the way down. So if you do cut it anywhere, you're still going to get the same load bearing capacity. So our anchors range from 6 3/8 inch length, 162 millimeters, up to a maximum of 21 7/8 inch length, or about 556 millimeters. In this table, you can see our standard anchors, and as I mentioned the links before, but I've added the weights, the pieces per pallet, and the item numbers so for reference when ordering. So again, on the left, KR 638, 838, 1138, 1278, 1738, and 2178. All those relate to inches, but we show the millimeters length, the weight in pounds and kilograms, the typical pieces per pallet, and our item numbers. Our typical stocking levels, and we do try to stock anchors, but we only stock 4 different sizes, and these are our target minimum or maximum stocking levels at our plant in East Canton, Ohio. So we try to keep between 1,500 and 3,000 pieces of the KR 838, 500 to 1,000 pieces of the 1278, 500 to 1,000 pieces of the 1738, between 750 and 1,500 pieces of the 2178. Those are targets. There's no guarantee they're going to be in stock at any time, but we do attempt to keep these in stock whenever possible. Our standard KR anchor is the LMOX P85HS quality. This is a high alumina phos bonded product with excellent strengths. That's cold crushing and modulus of rupture with low apparent porosity. We do make other qualities, but the standard is LMOX P85HS. In this diagram, you can see the D9703 hanger used for supporting the KR anchors from an I-beam. In this diagram, you can see to the right our typical anchors, the 638, 838, and so on, and the lining thickness that this would support in inches and in millimeters. This is assuming, since this is supported from an I-beam at the roof, that we are not covering the Cclips at the top. In this dual component lining, you can see an insulating castable at the top with a harder refractory to the hot face. So this would be the same diagram as it is completed, and note the Cclips that touch the anchor or hold the anchor and support on the I-beam are not covered by the refractory. This diagram on the left shows the typical Cclip that is used to hold the anchor directly to a shell. It can either be bolted, as in the top left diagram, or directly welded to the shell. In this, you'll see on the bottom left the thicknesses of refractory lining that these will support using these anchors. So 638 would be used for a 7-inch or 178 millimeter lining thickness. The 1278 would be for a 13.5-inch or 343 millimeter lining thickness. These anchors, these support anchors, typically come in 1/4-inch steel, and that is what we recommend. We do see them a little thinner, but we do recommend a 1/4-inch for the load bearing capacity. They are available in 304 stainless and 310 stainless. As I mentioned earlier, these anchors can be cut to length in the field and they will still have the same load bearing capacity. So if you order 1738s, but you end up needing a 10-inch lining, these can be cut without any effect on the load bearing capacity you'll have to support your lining. Okay, I wanted to mention, and thanks to our friends at Bright Refractory for passing this drawing on to us, Handlock Causeway does offer Cclips that have a different depth in them. Our typical depth for the standard Cclip is 5/8 inch at the top space from the shell to the top of the anchor. Handlock Causeway does offer Cclips that offer a longer depth, so you can use various Cclips with the exact same KR anchor to get different lining thicknesses. They also offer a Cclip with a shim built in, or a wedge right in the anchor, so that helps hold the brick anchors in place during installation. Many times you'll use a wood wedge to hold the anchor into the ceramic anchor into the metal anchor. These anchors have that metal piece already inserted into them to assist in installation. This is another set of diagrams that show the various anchor options for supporting a KR anchor. So they can be welded, they can be bolted directly to a shell. They can also be supported, as you can see in the bottom right, at an angle using the popper assembly. Besides the Cclip type of anchor holding, there are options to use what we call ice tongs. So these can be used with either a tube on the left or with an I-beam. These do need to be tack welded in place, but they do allow you various options to support ceramic anchors besides Cclips. In this diagram, you'll see on the left that we have ceramic anchors that have also been placed in conjunction with the wire anchors. Typically, the wire anchors are put in along with the ceramic anchors to help the load bearing, but also to help hold material in during installation. This diagram, I've blown up the anchor spacing so you can get a better idea of the different patterns that are available and the spacing that are suggested. So when we're talking about a cylinder like a rotary kill, lining thickness is from 9 to 12 inches. We recommend 12-inch spacing. Lining thickness is from 12 to 15 inches or greater. We recommend 18-inch spacing. For roofs, noses, and arches, where the anchor will hold more of the weight of the lining and not just hold it back to the shell, anything over 6 inches, we recommend 12-inch spacing. And then the diagram on the right just shows how we put in or suggest putting in the wire anchors in between the ceramic anchors, and how we like to see those rotated so you're not creating a plane when they're installed. So metallic hanger suppliers, as I mentioned earlier, Handlock, Causeway, Malco, and RAI are just some of the wire or the hangers suppliers that we deal with. There are many others, and these are ones we deal with in RAI, or in North America, excuse me. You can just search the internet for metallic refractory anchor suppliers, and you should get a list in your area of people to contact. This is a finished picture of a refractory lining with ceramic anchors. Notice that the ceramic anchors do extend to the hot face of the lining, unlike what you would use with a wire anchor. They do not extend to the hot face. When installing these ceramic anchors, here is shown on a sidewall how they should be supported, either using a wooden wedge to hold them in, or the Causeway design that has the metal shim already in the anchor. Sometimes you may also need to use an anchor support underneath. You'll see in the top drawing here, to help hold the anchor so it does not slip before refractory is installed around it. These finished pictures you'll see, they're always using the wire anchors between the ceramic anchors. Care needs to be taken during installation that you get material completely around the ceramic anchors. You don't allow what they call shadowing, where you spray straight on and it doesn't completely fill around the base of the anchors. Both of these pictures are for installing dry gunning material. So it was short and sweet. I hope you got something out of that. I hope I didn't go too quick. Here is my email information. If you have any questions or comments, I'll open it up to questions.
Like, does Bradisco recommend wrapping Cclips in a dual lining with like ceramic fibers so that they can move?
Our feeling is the ceramic fiber is going to help hold in too much heat, and we're trying to dissipate heat so that the anchors do not start to lose their strength at higher temperatures.
Okay, so there's is there anything that would suggest that would help alleviate any cracking of the anchor? Like when the linings move, a lot of the time I do inspections, and I notice they shear off lots at the point of where they go into the Cclip.
Well, that's typically going to be if it's not allowed to move up and down. So by using that wooden wedge that's going to burn out at the higher temperatures and get forced out after the lining is installed, you'll still allow for that movement.
Okay, now, so when you guys, no, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt or block anybody else off, but do the wedge Cclips with the metal wedge in the back, do they tend to increase the risk of that fracture in the anchor? I would assume that the wedge, the metal wedge, wouldn't burn out as quick, right?
It would not. It would typically be used, in my opinion, for sidewall installations so that it helps it hanging in so that the anchor still has the ability to move up and down in this case, but not back and forth. So if it was hanging, it would prevent it from moving up and down with the lining. But if it's sideways on a sidewall, it still is able to move up and down laterally with the lining, but not back and forth as related to the shell. You see what I mean?
Yeah, definitely for sure. Like I said, I
Yes.
was just the wrapping of the C-clip tends to be a always debated. So I just wanted to see what Resco's take was on it.
It has its pluses and minuses, but most of the time when we have been involved with issues where there's been anchor failure, it usually leads back to the C-clip itself being overheated.
10-4. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, Mike, if you want to take a look at the chat, we do have a couple questions in the chat as well.
Okay.
And as he answers, so if he's answering your question, you can go ahead and unmute yourself if you have a follow-up question.
So you say I've seen some installations that flip the ceramic anchor. What would be the advantage of this? Our anchors are held. The top part has the little angles that allow it to slide into the C-clip itself. By flipping it, there's really no true way of that C-clip holding it completely in place. So I don't see any advantage there. You would lose some of your load bearing capacity, and you may have to wedge it in. Then it's not able to move. And as the previous person we talked with, you would tend to see more cracking. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay.
And there was one more question up higher in the chat there, Mike.
Okay. What is the quality of these anchors, whether these are made in pressing route or by casting? So our typical anchor is the Lumex P85HS. That's what we try to stock. It is a FOSS bonded product. It works well with high alumina and with lower quality clay linings. They will not transfer as much heat as metal anchors. So that is another advantage. We do press these at our East Canton facility. They are not cast. They are all pressed and they are all fired. So they're full ceramic bonded anchors. Hope that answers your question.